Friendship supreme. Friendship supreme. Finding the geek within.
Hey everybody, I'm Michael.
This is Cleve.
Welcome back to another exciting episode of Friendship
Supreme.
We're the podcast that dares to ask, where's your go-to shop to buy comics?
I feel like it's fading, the options. I used to have
It is.
so many, and now I have so little.
I feel like we went through an ebb and flow of that before, though. Like in the late 90s, early 2000s, I feel like a lot of the small comic book shops got bought up by bigger ones.
You know what? I feel like there's one close to me that sold the Wild West
Mhm.
comics. They used to be Lone Star comics, but then they closed down. So apparently Lone Star knew what it was doing when it was getting rid of it. I don't know. Today, we're just going to be chatting a little bit about comic book stores, what we like, ones we go to, things we don't like, etc.
I remember when I was a kid, the first comic book store I ever went to was called Comics and Comics. That's what it was called. And the other big competitor was A1 Comics. And A1 Comics,
number one. That's the top.
yeah.
A1.
A1 Comics ended up buying out just about every comic book store in California, or in Sacramento. And so like you had no option. It was just that one. But Comics and Comics was the first one I ever went to. I went there when I was like 7.
Mhm.
And I remember walking in, and the guy's name was Mike. He was the owner. And I remember him saying, pick a comic. It was my first day there, or my first time there. Told me to pick one comic that I could have. And then I was sitting there talking to him about it. I picked a Sonic the Hedgehog comic.
Mm.
And I remember asking him about a Magic the Gathering box that looked kind of cool because it had a dragon on it. And he gave me a pack of cards and told me to come back and he'd teach me how to play.
Nice.
This was my first experience inside of a comic book store, and I fell in love with it. I thought it was just the coolest thing. Like, as a small kid that had no idea what I was looking at, kind of was, open arms, kind of.
Anytime you're a child and someone gives you that like Mean Joe Green experience, like, hey kid, take this with you. It's always like super exciting. I don't know that I remember my first comic book store. It was a lot older because I didn't really have access to it. But never where they gave me free things. Never that. That ever happened. Did you go back and learn how to play Magic the Gathering?
I did. And then proceeded to go back and teach my sister how to play it the wrong way. And by the wrong way, I mean the more easily understandable way that kids understood. Much like Pokemon. Like I never learned how to play the actual Pokemon card game, but god damn it, I played Pokemon cards.
I didn't learn how to play Pokemon cards until last year, and you can think that to the pandemic. I was sitting home bored alone. I was like, all right, yeah, time to learn.
So learn the real rules.
And instead of being like, this one's shiny, and put it in a little folder and never see again. Yeah, I don't know, man. There used to be so many around. Now, if you right now, I can Google comic book store near me, and I don't get a lot of hits.
I would say I'd be curious to see if any of the ones I went to before. I know, God, I can't even remember their name, but remember the one there was one up near like South Lake that we went to, and I was upset because it had like zero organization. Like there was just comics everywhere. It was like Area 51 comics, maybe.
Area 51 is in not Grapevine.
Okay. Maybe, it wasn't that one then. I don't remember what it was.
No, Area 51 we were okay with. Area 51 had a real cool vibe. I mean, nobody really bothered you.
There's Generation X, which is still there, but I don't know that it's called that anymore. And then the one that I currently haven't gone to in a while, but I would say is my go-to would be Collected Comics. They have one in Fort Worth, and they have one over here in Keller. And if you listen to those cues, you might know where I live. Please don't come find me.
Yeah, 2 out of the 3 where I put comic books near me is Wild West Comics, which is no longer there.
That's surprising that Wild West is completely gone. Because
Yeah,
I
it
feel
sucks.
like they had that big warehouse and they were shipping them out of there for some like a website, but it wasn't Wild Comics. I don't remember. It was weird the way that they did it.
And not to mention what stops me now from just buying it online, because that is 800 times easier.
Well, we're in the digital age. I mean, I
Right.
can rent them from a library for free, or I can buy them online for dumb cheap digitally.
Well, and what sucks is like I enjoy having one, like a physical
Right.
holding onto a copy, and that just gets further and further away. I had to read the first issue of the TMNT The Last Ronin digitally because it was sold out everywhere.
Yeah, I have 4 within 5 miles of me. I have 181 comics, which I've never seen before. Oh, that says it's 16 miles away. Never mind. I'll bet that's the one out in I'll bet that is the one we went to that's out in what's that called? Plano. Remember that one we went to? It smelled terrible, was an amazing store.
Yeah, it did
It
have a
like was
smell.
the coolest store ever, but it smelled like sewage. It was something to do with like the next door restaurant or something. It smelled like terrible. It's one called Pastime Comics, which I've never heard of. Collected Comics, which, like I said, if you're in the Fort Worth area, they're my number one go to. I think they're awesome.
So,
Both owners are amazing.
so what does the comic book store have to do for you to really pull you in? Obviously, the first one that you went to was a fluke of a majestic
Hey,
moment you'll never get again.
no, I mean, Cleve and I have traveled to different comic book stores and had wildly different interactions. We went to one of Cleve's favorite stores and had an interaction that almost made us never go back again.
Mm-hmm. Uh, Titan, right?
Yeah.
Titan Comics.
Yeah, there was a kid in there that was just an absolute shitbag to us for whatever reason.
Yeah, the owner is really super nice, and obviously you would be because it's your store and you own it.
And he wanted to
But
succeed.
right, but he had an employee there who was just it was almost closing time, and he just wasn't having it. And I went. I remember I went back without you, and the owner was ringing me up, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna say something. And I was like, look, man, I was like, I love this place. I was like, I drive 45 minutes
Yeah.
to go to this place just to drive 45 minutes back home. I'm like, I look forward to coming here. Every time I come, I spend $50. I understand that's not
It's not
I'm not
paying the bills, but at the same time, I mean, it's a good
it's a,
amount for an
it's a solid
individual.
chunk of money for one person. Yeah.
Right.
I'm like, and this dude talked to me in a way that I felt like never coming back here. And he was real nice about it, but it almost ruined that whole fucking place for me.
So a couple experiences come to mind of different places we've been to that I would say won me over in some way or another.
Mm-hmm.
But just as a general aspect, like a general talking of comic book stores, what they would have to do, I want to be acknowledged.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a simple, hey, how's it going today? Anything I can help you find? And I know that sounds dumb because in a lot of like electronic stores and stuff, you're like, oh, God, fucking leave me alone. Because I remember Best Buy all the time when I worked there, people were like, don't talk to me. I'm like, it's me just acknowledging, hey, I see you're here. If you need anything, let me know. And I think, first of all, that's just tentative. And that lets me know that you understand that, like, hey, I'm going to spend money here. You might want to notice that I'm here. And then the second big thing to me is the ability to not condescend me.
Yeah.
I love comic books, but comic books are an insanely intimidating medium to get into. Yeah,
sure.
gatekeeping's fucking miserable. And it's just that comic books in general are super intimidating because there's so much. And for myself to feel like I'm semi-knowledgeable in some comic books, to then know that if I go into a store, I'm going to be looked down upon because I like this version of this comic as opposed to this other version is just shitty. And it makes me go, I don't want to come here ever again.
Yeah, it's funny because I appreciate the acknowledgement, and at the same time, it's like I don't want you like pushing up on me. It's definitely like, hey, what's going on? Need anything? I'm just looking. Let me know. That's perfect.
That's all I asked for.
Which is the minimal amount of effort and surprisingly very difficult to pull off.
Yeah, because I think there are some that are overbearing. Like, hey, how can I help you today? Oh, I'm
And
just looking around. Oh, like, did you check this out? Did you see this? Did you see this? There's like two things I need you to tell me. Hey, how's it going today? Are you looking for anything? No? Cool. Just to let you know, these things are on sale. Have a great day.
yeah,
Let me know if you
yeah.
need anything.
Oh, and I get it too, because again, if it's my place, let's say it's been a slow week, I really want you to buy something. Please tell me anything you need. I want to be available. Here's the thing: press a button when you need me. I'm on it. And my comic book story would have little bells all around, and you just bing it, and I fucking, what? Did you need something from me? Come here.
Um, we had an experience, an interesting one. So again, Cleve and I traveled the country doing different weird things.
Mm-hmm.
And happenstance, we ended up on one in Alabama. It was a very off the road, dingy looking, not
Mm-hmm.
great.
Yes.
Things inside of it weren't great, but the people were amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would go back and find that one again before I went anywhere else in Alabama. Because, in fairness, I don't plan on going back to Alabama often, but it's just like those types of things. I remember being there, him getting ready for a convention and him saying, hey, that's really cool. Like, we were like, hey, we're traveling cross country right now.
Mm-hmm.
We just thought it'd be fun to see some local comic book shops. He goes, cool. He goes, I know these people, and every one of these people will make sure they take care of you.
Yep.
Check them out. And he sat there and talked to us about comics and talked to us about some pops and our travel, and then said, if there's anything I need or you need, let me know.
There was, and I think it was the same guy that maybe it's a different guy. It might have been a different guy that was like, we collect pops. That was like, I fucking hate pops, and I wish they weren't in the comic book store.
It
And I
was
was
him.
like,
It was him. He's like, I understand it, but I hate them.
dog, kind of attacking the like one of the few things that I that I know.
And what I have to imagine is a pretty good revenue bringer for them.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're buying them in lots like they're buying comic books. My local store I just saw they posted on Facebook twice. Hey, bought these big ass lots. Come on in. And I know they're marking them up because they got to, because you're making it's a business. I don't blame them for marking
They buy
up.
it cheap and sell it higher.
Yeah. But yeah. But no, I mean, I don't require a lot. And I feel like most of them nowadays let me down.
I can see that. And the only one that I even get excited about thinking about going to is Titan, and it's because it's a massive store, and the guy like hires his whole family to run the store. Is very, very seasoned mother is like in the back at the desk doing paperwork and shit. Like, whole family's there.
It's nice to have someone that's knowledgeable. I want to be able to go in there and say, hey, I can't remember what so and so did this and is doing this. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, this comic book. Read this one, and if you really like that, here's this whole line done for this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'd love to have that, because I thought about applying at a comic book store, and I was like, I'm not going to work there because I will let somebody down. I can do the customer service part of it. What I can't do is be there for you on the knowledge end.
That's why you hire other people that like, you know a lot about Star Trek. You're on the team. Come on. Yeah, or I mean, yeah, because it's difficult. But also, I imagine if I own a comic book store, I have time to keep up with all that shit.
At that point, it's your job.
Yeah, because I remember I wanted to read the Green Lantern Brightest Light storyline, and I told them, I was like, but I want to understand everything before I read it. So I want to know green, red, blue, yellow. Let's do it. And the guy from Dragon Comics, he was like, don't do that. He was like, let me tell you this. Why don't you read the book as is? And he was like, let me questions you have. Then you can go back and find that information. He goes, because you want to know the history leading up to this, you're going to be reading for months. I was like, that's fair. And that makes a lot more sense than what I was going to do. Well, yeah, I appreciate it.
And that's why it's nice to have that person to guide you. And I think that's why comic books are still able to exist without comic book stores are able to exist even in the digital era.
Mhm.
I think we see that with a couple of different brick and mortar stores. I think GameStop's a good example. I think GameStop will hang around forever because even though we may have terrible experiences here and there from somebody being, a smarmy jackass, much like in comic books, where you have gatekeepers that work for you. Well, that's not a real video game. You should play JRPGs or something like that. Like, I don't need that from you. What I need you to do is be able to tell me, damn, you really liked Red Dead Redemption? Did you know that this game exists too?
Yeah.
And like, you need those Sherpas, like, to guide you in your adventure and to show you, like, hey, I know you liked this. This is a little different, but maybe try this.
Yeah, that's why unfortunately we could never actually run a store. As much as the dream sounds amazing, could you imagine?
We will.
Could you imagine trying to answer someone's questions and then be like, and then they'll tell their friends, "Look at this fucking comic book store. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about."
You know what? We may not know what we're talking about, but we have those dank ass pops.
Yeah, all the pop for days. Why don't we just open a shop that sells pops that also has comic books?
We'll call it a pop-up shop.
Oh.
And then people will be like, oh my God, this new pop-up shop's down the street. And then they'll think we're trendy.
We'll get one of those vans that's wide enough to where people can walk in and go kind of up and down like a comic convention aisle would be. And just
but no windows.
All right.
These look real dingy looking.
Real sketch. Hey, come up the stairs, kid.
Hey, I got some toys in the back. You want to see it?
Mom, Dad, you have $5? There's this van up the street that wants to sell me something. Yeah, maybe it won't work out. Maybe it won't work out. Yeah, I mean, I missed them, especially during the pandemic. I already hadn't been to one for a while before this. After all this happened, I'd barely go anywhere. Comic books is a real out of the stretch. But I remember there was a day where I think I was trying to find you a gift. And I just kept going, comic book store near me, comic book store near me, comic book store near me. And I was not impressed with any of them. And it was like in the Mansfield-ish area. Because anytime I'm in a new area, I'll do that. Anytime I'm in a new space, I'll go, comic book store near me and see just what comes up.
It's bad when half price books is the answer.
Yeah.
I feel like I get that a lot.
Yeah, half price books.
Not that half price books is bad. It's just
if that's your answer, right, then there's no comic book stores nearby.
Right.
Because half price books is a bookstore that also sells comics.
The pandemic is what made me or pushed me into building a relationship with my local comic book store. But I will say I spent too much money there and had to pull it in. Like sometimes, don't know if you guys know this or not, I buy too many things sometimes.
What?
And so I have to like curb what I'm doing. And so I just cut it off usually. And so like I feel kind of bad because like I really miss a lot of those guys and I'm still in their Facebook groups and stuff, but like I just know that if I involve myself there, I'm going to go back to spending lots of money that I don't have. So I have to like skirt the fence a little bit on that one.
Yeah. I got back into comic books in 2011 when Miles Morales was going to come back, and I think DC was doing like the New 52.
Yeah,
that's what they're doing.
It was like 2010, 2011, I think.
And I kept, because I didn't understand how they worked. I went in there, they didn't have it. I'm like, okay. Go in there the next week, they didn't have it. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, well, you know what? Let me pick up this line. This is a new line. I'll pick up this line while I'm waiting for this. And then Spider-Man would come out, and then I'd pick up another line. And then before I knew it, I was regularly picking up about 10 to 15 different comic lines.
And that shit gets expensive.
That I'm reading. I'm buying four at a time on what New Comic Book Day is Wednesday. And it's just fucking. I was reading. It's funny because I was reading an X-Men line, and then it broke off, And so I kept reading both of those, and then I'm reading the Miles Morales new Spider-Man line, and then I'm reading the current Spider-Man line, and
When Sam Wilson took over for Captain America, it broke into 3.
that
And
sounds great.
I'm like, I have to keep up with these 3 different lines. And then
That
I
sounds
went
like
back to trying to follow up on comic books, and those lines died. And then like, there's just a different line now. And I'm like, well,
that's
comic
also
books
kind
are
of
an interesting, like,
that's also kind of where I learned that graphic novels is where it's at.
yeah, that's fair. Graphic novels are not bad. I mean, digital has been a real saver for me for a lot of stuff like that. But at the same time, I'm with Cleve. I like to have a physical copy of something in my hand. It just is better.
You know why? Because when I have a comic and I'm done reading it, I can go, here, Michael, you read this comic now, and then you can, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I read the whole Why the Last Man series, and I want Cleve to read it, and all I can do is offer him like the first book because I have the first one physically, and the rest of them I just had to do digitally.
right. Well, and then the demand, it gets difficult. I went online, and that last Ronin issue 1 was crazy prices. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just buy it $8 digitally because you guys want to charge me $150.
Well, I think that's the other thing that started to deter me from going to that comic book store anymore. And it's again, nothing at this comic book store. If you want physical comics, I highly recommend them. It's just that like it's the whole game of comics now. Like a comic comes out, and there's 20 different covers. Each cover ranges, none of them are ever the $3 they're supposed to be anymore. It's always like, this one's $10. This one's
That basic ass
$15. This
one
one's
is
$50, right? And you have to then find it, and you can't. And it's just like, I found myself buying more used old comics than I ever bought new comic series.
Yeah, I was on that new comic game. It got high. But you know what? At the same time, I like variant covers sometimes.
Yeah,
Sometimes
that's just it. I mean, it's just like
they're
Pops.
really good.
Yeah, it's just like Pops. There are times where I'm like, fuck, I really want that cover. I guess I'm going to spend $25 on a comic that should be $3 because this artist just happened to do it way better. Variant covers didn't used to be more.
Yeah.
When you were a kid growing up, variant covers were just that. It was a variant. Like it was just some other artist did this artwork for this. Like it wasn't like, hey, this is our way of getting $150 out of you for one comic book.
Right. And then
now Jim Lee does something, and it's like, well, fuck me.
They got real smart, and they were like, I'm just gonna make the cover blank. You do it. You do it yourself.
I liked that. I liked that idea.
Yeah, if I could do something on it, that'd be
what
cool.
That did was that then got you to go out to a comic book convention and say, oh, hey, I really loved your work on so-and-so. Do you think you can do a comic cover for me? And then, you spend your $25, $30 for some comic book artist to make you a custom comic cover.
Well, I mean, custom, I'm sure it's like
right
a printer for them. They're like, yeah,
same thing as old boy Sam De La Rosa.
Sam De La Rosa,
he's a fucking legend.
The best,
just a legend. He did the Venom. He was the artist on the first ever Venom centric storyline, and he's at every convention, and he will talk to you like you're his best friend.
Mm-hmm.
He is genuinely one of the. He is worth every penny to get his autograph or him to sign a book, and I think it's only like $20. You get the comic too.
Who was that older man that we met? I can't remember his name.
Alan. God, I cannot remember. Alan something. One of the original artists on Captain America. I have that artwork still hanging up in my daughter's room.
Trying to see if I can find. Oh, he sold the shit out of you too.
Fucker.
Alan Bellman.
Yep, Alan Bellman. Yeah, Alan Bellman sitting there. He was one of the original, at least of the golden age, I believe, if I remember correctly, Captain America artists. And he said, I'm gonna sign this for you, but for an extra $5, I'll write your kid's name in there. And I said, done. I don't even give a fuck. And he did. He wrote this little Captain America patting the kid on the head. telling her that she was going to be the next Captain America. And I was like, Jameson, you're going to be the next Captain America. And my child wasn't born yet. And I was like, yep.
It was the golden age.
Yeah.
He's since passed away. Not that was super surprising because he was very old when we met him.
Much like Stan Lee.
Yep. He was June 5th, 1924 to March 9th, 2020.
Wow. That would have been a year after we met him.
Yeah. He was hooking at the comics like nobody's business.
Yeah. I mean, just like I said, the comic book store, I think a comic book store, to be a good comic book store, has to be also like kind of involved in the community, like the local collector community. Like they do stuff for people. They know people, your audience, who you're gonna, your regulars and but they're just good people. Like you have to want to talk to people. You have to want to make those connections. Like I said, the dudes over at Collected, Brent and Ron. Ron owns the Fort Worth one. Brent owns the Keller one. Both amazing guys. Dudes. So everybody.
Do they want to open another one that we can run?
Funny news. I think they are actually opening a third one. Unfortunately, I did not talk to them about us getting in on the ground floor of that. But they just posted something on their Facebook page. It was like big news coming, and it looks like a lease possibly or an expansion.
So I don't know there, man.
Yo, I would love to, man. I can't tell you if
I probably gonna get the same benefits, but
the one reason I think the thing I think would be toughest about getting into a comic book store, because like I said, we can be with the friendly part we have. You have a decent amount of knowledge, but like you said, we could hire people that have no more knowledge or Google. But it's the connections to the distributor and that general connection to the collection community that we don't have.
Right.
That I think is pivotal or crucial to have a successful business. But I would love to. I think owning a collectible shop or something, again, it's just what we do here on the podcast, but in real life, providing some kind of outlet for people that may not always seem nerdy to be nerdy and have fun and talk about stupid shit, even if we don't know everything we need to know about it.
So maybe that would just be the trick. Maybe the trick wouldn't necessarily be a comic book store, but just that nerdy friendly store in general.
We call it gateway to nerddom.
And the best part is everybody has that guy who fucking doesn't work there, but there all the time. We just need that guy.
We do need that guy. Everybody's
got that guy. Fucking comic book man got that guy. He ain't on the payroll, but boy is he there.
Oh.
So if you'd like to apply to be the comic book guy, please reach out to Friendship Supreme at friendship.supreme@gmail.com.
If you guys like this episode or want to hear more about this topic or any other topics, let us know on our social medias. What are those, Cliff?
We have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, which are all Friendship Supreme, except Twitter has no I's in the word friendship. Typically to make it to the YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Friendship Supreme. We also have a Patreon, which is patreon.com/Friendship Supreme. Every dollar you give there gets us one step closer to getting our own store.
You guys can also check us out on Twitch. We play video games on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. 9 p.m. Central. Until whenever.
Until question mark.
Until question mark.
12 a.m. 3 hours.
Hard cut. But anyways, guys, I've been Michael.
This is Cleve.
It's not who I am underneath, but what I do that defines me.